It's been over 3 years since the M1 MacBook Air came out, and Apple is still selling it for $1,000. At $750 on Amazon, it may look like the best bang for the buck. So, should you still buy it in 2024? I think with this MacBook, we have to change our perspective. When we talk about MacBooks on this channel, we pay a lot of attention to the performance and heavy apps like video editing. And while we'll still do a bit of that in this video, I want to make an emphasis on the tasks most people buying these MacBook will do. Because I refuse to believe that a serious video editor or music creator will buy this laptop. Right now, this is a basic machine for the basic tasks, and the target audience that is going to buy it is quite obvious: college students, office workers, teachers, etc. For these people, performance is not the most important thing. For them, all the other parts of a laptop carry much more meaning than the number of cores or gigabytes of memory. For me, a tech YouTuber, this laptop can seem old sometimes, especially when I look at its screen. This is not a bad display in any way, but after using MacBook Pro with Pro Motion and super high brightness for such a long time, using the M1 MacBook with its old school display is quite a downgrade. But not everyone is like me, and for people considering this MacBook, this display is gonna be more than okay. It's still great for consuming content, watching movies, and working with documents. It's sharp, it's crisp, and it's reasonably bright. It has everything you want from a laptop display and nothing more. It would have been nice for it to have a higher max brightness, at least 500 nits. 400 that it has is still okay, but for working outdoors in the sun, it may not be enough.
For office.
Totally. At home, in the office, in college classrooms, you will have zero issues with the brightness of this display. And by the way, the M1 MacBook Air is the last MacBook without a notch that Apple sells right now. And for some people, this is an advantage of itself. I know quite a few people who still can't get used to having a notch on MacBooks and use older models with classic display format. So if you're one of those people, the M1 MacBook Air might be the best choice for you. And I also know a lot of people who prefer the old design of MacBook, like this wedge shape of the MacBook Air. I'm a strong supporter of the new design language and boxy laptops, but I simply love how thin and elegant this MacBook feels. It just looks really fashionable, more like an accessory rather than an instrument for work. Quite a different feeling, right? All the modern laptops from Apple lean towards being productive and utilitarian, but the M1 MacBook Air is light, simple, and natural as hitting the like button in this video and subscribing to the channel. Though there is one part of this design that I don't really like: sharp edges. The way this MacBook was designed and manufactured has left quite sharp edges, which sometimes can make opening the lid or picking up the laptop less comfortable. Well, that's what I'm talking about. Rounded edges of the newest MacBooks are better for me, and that's all. Sorry, but there's one more thing about this older design that you should know before buying. Ports. The port situation here is really bad. For me, I mean. The M1 MacBook Air has only 2 USB-C ports and 1 headphone jack. That's all you get. One of these ports will often be occupied by the charging cable, leaving you only with 1 USB-C, and for me, someone who needs to connect a lot of stuff, this is an issue. But if all you would ever need to connect is a flash drive, you might be just fine. Yet I'm still gonna say that to use this MacBook comfortably, you need a USB hub. You never know when you need to connect an external display, stick in the memory card, or a non-USB-C flash drive. And by the way, recently we made a video with the best iPhone accessories where I've covered USB hubs in quite the detail. All those hubs will work with this MacBook, so be sure to check out that video before buying. I'd say right now we haven't really found reasons not to buy this MacBook, but maybe the performance is something to be concerned about. Let me quickly go over the specs. The M1 MacBook Air has the good old M1 chip inside, obviously. 8 CPU cores, 7 GPU cores, 8 gigs of RAM, and 256 gigs of SSD. Is this enough for 2024? Well, it depends on what you're planning to do with this MacBook Air, because this config has its benefits and drawbacks. For example, the sheer power of the M1 is more than enough for the majority of people and the majority of tasks. But 8 gigabytes of RAM may not be enough if you plan on doing something that requires tons of memory. And those 256 gigs of SSD, I'd say that it's a blessing blessing and a curse. On one hand, it is not enough to store that many files and apps. However, unlike the M2 MacBook Air, on the M1 Air, the memory uses the 2 NAND chips instead of 1. To put it simply, this gives better data transfer speeds, which helps compensate slightly for those 8 gigs of RAM. Well, yes, Emmanuel, I agree with you on that. With these specs in mind, what are you really planning to do with your MacBook? If you're a student, teacher, and office worker, then the most demanding thing you will do is opening 50 Chrome tabs, and it will handle it. For simple office work, opening PDF documents, editing Excel spreadsheets, attending meetings, and browsing the web, the M1 is more than enough. I used this MacBook Air for a long time before, and I perfectly understand what it's capable of. And believe me, office work and undemanding workflows isn't something that can make it sweat, and even more demanding and complicated things like video editing can be comfortably done on the M1 MacBook Air. This surely won't be the most complicated editing with tons of effects, but something relatively simple. And that's the beauty of the M1 MacBook Air, it can really do it all. I feel like Tim Cook might actually regret making the M1 that good. If you're a student, teacher, and office worker, there's one more thing that you definitely care about more than you care to admit: keyboard. After all, the chances are you're going to type a lot of text on this MacBook, and luckily the keyboard on the M1 MacBook Air doesn't disappoint in the slightest. It's really nice to type on, the keys are big, and the key travel makes typing feel smooth and relatively silent. There is a fingerprint reader in the power button, which even today is available only on some Windows laptops. It is hard to overestimate all the warm memories I have of this MacBook. It's been with me through a lot of stuff and helped start this channel, so for me it is a very special laptop. It was the first MacBook to blow my mind with its incredible combination of performance and battery life. And that battery life, that's something you definitely shouldn't worry about. The M1 may not be as power efficient as the M2 or M3 chips, but it can still comfortably last for 10 hours without a need to be charged. If you're using a Windows laptop right now, these numbers may sound impossible to you, but no, 10 hours of work on a single charge, I'd say, is a reality and not a fantasy with the M1 MacBook Air. If you buy this thing, you will be able to comfortably work anywhere, on the train, in the park, in a restaurant, even on your couch, all without needing to connect the power source. This incredible battery life did blow my mind 3 years ago, and it continues to do it even today. I think I don't need to say the speakers are also great for a laptop of this size, and the webcam, despite being only 720p, produces a really clean and nice picture. So in all those countless Zoom meetings, you will definitely look the best of the bunch. Well, I see no reason not to. MacBook Air M1 is still a fantastic laptop, even in 2024. It can feel outdated in some ways, but in all the ways that really matter, it is very much modern. $1,000 that Apple asks for it may be too much, but $750 is more of a fair price. I think if you do a little bit more deal hunting, you will be able to find an even lower price. $750 for a laptop that will comfortably last you a couple years without a need to upgrade, that looks fashionable and classy, is a small price to pay. But I still suggest you think about your needs. Are they stationary, or will they change in a couple years? Because if you are a student, in a couple of years you might need a more powerful machine for all those programs that your college or university requires. So in this case, it might make sense to invest in something more powerful like the MacBook Pro. But if you are a teacher or an office worker, then most likely your needs have stayed unchanged for the past 5 years, and in this case they're not likely to change anytime soon. So for you, buying the $750 M1 MacBook Pro might be the most cost-effective investment. It's always better to spend your money wisely, am I right? And if you decide to buy this MacBook, do it carefully. Despite the buying process being super simple, there still are quite a few ways that you can make a mistake while buying a Mac. To help you with that, we made a video with the most popular MacBook buying mistakes, so be sure to check it out and see you there.